Here's why the U.S. Air Force is in need of the A-10 Warthog. A-10 Warthog. This is more than just a capable aircraft. MPs should recognize and appreciate the inherent capabilities of the weapons systems and culture that surrounds the A-10. They are second to none. The Army needs the expertise, culture and community around the A-10 to remain a dynamic part of the Air Force for the foreseeable future. In 2016, former Rep. Martha McSally suggested that the Air Force fly off between the F-35 and A-10 to see which is better at providing close air support, CAS. But an effective CAS is more than the capabilities of the aircraft involved. This requires the Air Force community with an in-depth knowledge of Army maneuvering tactics, mindset, and intentions. The A-10 community has this knowledge. But that understanding will be lost if and when the Air Force discontinues the A-10 weapon system, unless its leadership takes a different course of action than currently planned. The A-10 is specifically designed to provide CAS. It can bring about many ordnances. Its 30mm cannon can fire at greater distances and with greater accuracy than other combat aircraft, and can stay in the target area longer than other fourth-generation platforms. That capability, paired with a pilot familiar with the Army's faculties, movements, mindset, and limitations, puts the A-10 weapon system above all else in the CAS environment. Unfortunately, the limited number of A-10s has forced other aircraft to play a role. Over the past decade, the A-10 accounted for only 24% of all CAS sorties flown in Afghanistan. While not suitable for CAS, other aircraft have played an admirable role. F-16s and F-15s flew thousands of CAS sorties in Iraq in 2004-05, dropping munitions on more than 200 targets in that year alone. Many of those attacks occurred when there was little or no safe separation between enemy and friendly forces, but they delivered the ammunition perfectly. Unlike the F-35, the A-10 is not designed to operate in modern high-threat CAS environments, where stealth and sensor fusion technologies are critical. But not all future operations will play out in such an environment, so for the sake of measuring both aircraft, let's compare them in the context of a low-threat scenario. The F-35's internal ammunition bay, coupled with an externally mounted armament rack, would dwarf the F-16's armament capacity, and hold its own with the A-10 and F-15E. Its large fuel capacity will likely give it more time in the target area than the A-10. The internal targeting system and precision-guided munition capabilities are now and will eventually meet or exceed the capabilities and accuracy of other CAS platforms in the world. Additionally, the F-35's cockpit air-to-surface visibility is excellent and, if needed, its 25mm gun can get the job done. Bottom line. The F-35 may never be considered the main, close air support fighter, but in a low-threat environment, the F-35 will perform every current CAS role at least as much as any other fourth-generation fighter, with the exception of the A-10. And it is one of only 2 fighters in or entering any service inventory that has the skills and survivability necessary to fulfill that role in a denied environment. CAS is more than just an equipment issue. One of the most underrated aspects of the A-10 system is the community of pilots who fly it. Every man or woman who enters the operational world of PIG is taught not only how to use weaponry in close air support combat, but also to embrace the culture and environment that goes with it. As Iraq's F-16s and F-15s have proven, any aircraft capable of delivering weapons can operate effectively in a slow-moving, low-threat insurgency environment. But effectively using weaponry to support a fast-moving and sizable force-on-force environment is something else entirely. Their organization, language, nomenclature, formation, mindset, tactics, and silhouettes of friends and foes must be in the pilot. Much like the F-15C's air superiority community, the A-10's singular mission has allowed its community to embrace the Army and focus their efforts on missions supporting them. The faculties could not be developed overnight. It was impossible to build a culture that would embrace the Army in a squadron that played multiple roles in combat. In the early 2000s, much of the opposition to the F-35 came from the Army. The generals feared that, with the A-10 retired, the Air Force would drift away from its commitment to the CAS mission. The Army wasn't just content with the A-10, it really didn't want work shifted to the F-35, which is tasked with multiple missions: deterrence, suppression of enemy air defense, air superiority and special weapons, over the CAS. The other missions, Army officials said, would push its need for CAS to the bottom of the list. To address those concerns, the Air Force amended its F-35 purchase plan to include an F-35B vertical takeoff and landing (STOVL) variant sufficient to replace the A-10 and make CAS a high priority. Following up on that plan will sustain the CAS community. Unfortunately, the Air Force later reversed the F-35B's decision and again looked to retire the A-10. Keeping the A-10 in inventory solely because of its outstanding CAS faculty is not a viable argument. Other air-to-surface capable aircraft have performed well in low-threat work situations, and there is little question that the F-35 will meet or exceed those jets in low or high-threat environments. But the A-10 system is more than just a capable aircraft. It is a weapon system built on the community that has been the cornerstone of the Air Force's commitment of support to the Army over the past 4 decades. If the Air Force were to switch CAS missions to the F-35A, any part of the A-10 community that survived the initial transition would die the same slow death experienced by other Air Force missions supporting the Army. Consider the fate of the Airborne Battlefield Command and Control Center mission, which dissolves into ether when the EC-130 is retired. The argument that future CAS engagements will almost all take place in a rejected environment, requiring F-35 stealth and fusion, is also unfeasible. Projected trends in global demographics, assessments of future operating environments, intelligence forecasts, and common sense all point to the likely need for CAS in low-threat, low-intensity environments for years to come. All 1,753 operational F-35s will be needed to train for, and deal with, the threats posed by China, Russia and North Korea. It would be foolish to use the F-35 in an environment where an equally effective, but less expensive platform like the A-10 thrives. Rather than demanding a hardware-centric fly-off, lawmakers should recognize and value the capabilities inherent in the weapons systems and culture that surrounds the A-10. They are second to none. The Army needs the expertise, culture and community around the A-10 to remain a dynamic part of the Air Force for the foreseeable future.